guys. We're happy to continue our Digital Olympus conference, and then we're going to find out all the SEO secrets which we were planning to review. And we are going to start with Francois Gabon, and he is happy to share his own practices. And I'd like to say that Francois is a co-founder of Uncrawl service, and also a French ambassador of Majestic. So Francois, the floor is yours. Please share your ideas and tricks with us and with our audience. Francois, I'm afraid we can't hear you right now. Are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here. How are you?
Great. So you are welcome to start, and we are super excited to hear your ideas.
Okay, thanks. Are you here? Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Guys, do you have any questions to each other, maybe? Because sometimes, like, you know, it happens as well. What are your thoughts?
I don't know why, but we can't hear you, Francois, right now.
No, I'm here.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Okay, great. We can hear you as well. So Francois, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
So we are waiting for your presentation right now. Are you ready to start?
Yeah, sure. Can you see my screen?
Yes, perfectly. We can see everything great and hear you well. So the flow is yours, and we are excited to hear your ideas.
Okay, so thanks for having me. Hi, Digital Olympus. I'm very happy to be with you today because we are going to go through a very important topic now, which is how to build the most reliable SEO roadmap. But before digging into that, I guess I need to introduce myself. So I'm Francois. I've got over 15 years of SEO experience, and I'm the CEO and founder of Uncrawl, which is a semantic SEO crawler and log analyzer. I used to be also the Majestic ambassador for France for many years now. So I hope I will show you some great SEO methods and insights. So let's get to the menu. Today we're going to talk a little bit about project management, and we're going to see how to use several tools and metrics to build your SEO roadmap. And third, we will dig into more deeper analysis and how to execute your SEO roadmap. So let's get the talk started. first of all, I think project management is not a four-letter word. As SEOs, we all have a geeky, even a nerdy side, so that administrative or management tasks are seen as a distraction from getting hands-on SEO. But I think project management is not your enemy. It's one of the key factors of success of your SEO project, because it helps you write down your plan to reach rational goals, and it will help you to communicate and deal with all stakeholders to achieve your goals. So in an SEO project, you find many stakeholders. I mean, clients, coders, SEO guys, even search engines themselves. So you are dealing with different approaches, and all stakeholders have different goals. So sometimes you may have a very big problem. First, your client or your boss sees himself or want to be the George Clooney of the web. I mean, he may want to rank for the most competitive keywords, and on the other hand, you have the SEO state of mind and approaches and constraints. So you need to deal with it. You also have, on the other hand, the developers' constraints and their planning, their development pipes. So you realize there that they have sometimes very different approaches. And then you finally deal with Google, who's changing the game rules now and then. Then we saw some radical changes over the last 5 years. So you need to integrate potential changes and risks into your project management tools and your approach. So you need to integrate that. But what I want to tell you is that with over 250 customers, we found out that SEO success is not only a question of skills or expertise, but a question of organization around the project, and a question of how you manage to keep the communication transparent and seamless between all stakeholders. And to do that, you need the right tools, and of course, you need accurate data. And this is what we are to see in a couple of minutes. But let me just point out my preferred tools for project management. We use Trello on a regular basis. It's really great to communicate and to keep track about who is working on what and when. We also use Slack to communicate with IT guys, because it looks like Slack is getting some hype right now. So feel free to use it. It's easy to communicate with developers with that. And of course, you need meeting points. I mean, SEO workshops with all stakeholders, clients, tech guys, SEO teams, so that everyone can sit around the table and have access to every part of the stakeholders in the SEO project. We are going to see now which metrics you need to rely on to build the perfect SEO roadmap. First of all, you have three things three types of actions you can act on. First one is link building. And as this topic is well documented out there, I won't get into a lot of details. I will dig more into technical SEO and the content, which is closely linked. So let's get into that. First of all, we will see how to build proper content segmentation, how to put the right pages and keep track of your performance, and how to validate your strategy on each ranking factor. And we'll see a couple of examples from on-call. So what we are going to see is how to become a top gun at driving the SEO strategy efficiently. First thing first, when you start thinking about your on-page SEO, you need to get back to your basics. The first things to look for is the perfect picture of your content. You need to know perfectly your market, your topic, to provide your targets with the content they want, using the keywords they are querying. You also need to know how content is split within your site. And you should pay attention to comparing your website to your competitors, and doing so, chances are you will find some solutions, or perhaps some kind of inspiration. And in this chart, you can see that this website has a huge volume of pages regarding the category presented in red. So if you have an oversized group of pages within your website, you should pay attention to how to deal with it. And at first sight, you can understand here that there might be something hard to deal with in terms of internal linking structure and indexation for this particular group of pages. To help you learn more on this, let's look at an A-grade website, meaning a perfectly thought content structure. In this example, we have an online media wanting to rank on the names of people like Lady Gaga or Madonna, whatever. This is the category in green on the screen, and the numbers are representing the depth level of each page, or each group of pages. So you can see here that they have set up their pages about people, and which are the pages candidates to rank on the name of people. They put them very close to the home page. And as they perfectly know, they have another category called media, which is the category in brown here, which is subject to near duplicates. The media category is about dioramas, photos, videos, so they have very thin content here. So they put it deeper in their structure. So this way, they are perfectly driving authority, popularity, you name it, to those different groups. To help you segment your pages, I highly recommend that you ask yourself which parts of your website are supposed to rank on highly competitive keywords, and build down to your long tail candidates. You should also pay attention to which part of your website have bold content, which part have thin content, which parts have near duplicates. It will help you figure out how to map your website and organize your content. For each group, even each top priority page, you should keep an eye on the depth of the page, of course, but also keep an eye on the in rank, which is a score from 0 to 10, representing the popularity of a particular page. So this is a red curve here, so you can see how popularity flows within your website, and check if you have some kind of internal linking problem. We know that when you have a drop around of 2 points from a level to another, then you might have some kind of internal linking optimization to do. So keep an eye on that, and of course do it by category of pages to get a more accurate view of how in-rank flows. And once you have a great content distribution matching your competitive landscape and your content constraints, you need to check if Google is buying your story. How does Google behave? How does it understand your website? So to do that, simply look at your log files. Here you can see a website with a categorization with brand, product pages, directory, rise, and as you can see, we have here the number of unique URLs Google is fetching every day. We have a tiny little group called Others. This group, this customer put all the pages with no value at all. It's about 100 pages per day. And when you look at how many times each unique URL is fetched by Google, you see that Google is spending way too much resources on these unvaluable pages. This is a big problem because Google has a kind of crawl budget, which is barely the same every day. They have a number of URLs to crawl per day, so your job as an SEO is to keep Google see the right pages. And here you can see that this website might have a problem of internal linking structure that implies that Google is wasting its resources on unvaluable pages. And looking at your logs will also helps you track your SEO performance, how each of your optimizations are performing for each part of your website. It will help you check if migration or a new release is doing well, or if your IT has put some new redirects or errors you didn't think of. As we got all the referring traffic in the logs, we can analyze your organic traffic as well. And it's very useful. You can dig into your active pages so that you can better understand which pages. Let me just make a quick information here. An active pages is a page receiving organic traffic. I mean, it's a page ranking in SERPs and a page receiving some users. Here you can see that you can monitor your active ratio and you can monitor how many visits you're doing on these active pages. And we compute something very funny, which is the fresh rank, which is the shortest period of time between two events. One is the first time Google has seen a particular page, and the first time Google sent its first visits, SEO visits. So as an e-commerce vendor, you might check regularly this fresh rank, so it will help you arbitrate different web marketing strategies. And as we know all your active pages, we can find if there's a pattern, a common characteristic of these active pages. How many inlinks do they have? Do they have structured data? How many words do they have? And of course, you can filter the results by groups of pages so that you get an accurate view of the ideal on-page metrics you should target for each group of pages. And of course, we know the inactive pages as well. So we can help you dig into these active and inactive pages. Will help you understand what are the quick wins you should work on first. So feel free to compare this type of data so that you know what to put on top priority. And of course, you need to work on your groups, because I think a great mapping of your website will help you get accurate view, accurate results for each part of your website. So just to remind you, spot your most competitive pages within your groups. know how unique, how bold, how seen is your content, and determine how you should boost the visibility of each pages or groups of pages. And doing so, you could arbitrate your index, no index rules to optimize Google's crawl budget. And of course, for each group of pages, you can have the ideal on-page metrics that will help you rank in SERPs. Now, as you can have your crawl data and your log data, we are able to combine those two data sets, which will help you spot which zones are not crawled by Google at all. Do you have often pages? And you can compare for each ranking factor how Google is behaving on your groups of pages. So doing these combined analysis, you will understand which ranking factor matters most for your topic or your particular website. And depending on your topic, depending on the size of your content, depending on the size of your website, sorry, the size of your content can matter a lot. You can see here the crawl ratio regarding the number of words per page. You can check as well if the number of inlinks has an impact on the crawl ratio. You can as well check if the payload has an impact, and depending on your topic, the Googlebot's behavior may vary. So you should be aware that a classifieds website won't behave in Google's eyes the same way as an e-commerce website or even a media website. So you should pay attention on each ranking factor and how the optimization of a particular ranking factor may impact Google bots behavior. In parallel, I highly suggest that you check if you have near duplicates. I won't get into much more details here. Sorry. Just remember, we can spot duplicated pages clusters so that you can have an accurate view of how much duplication or near duplicates you have within your website. But you should pay attention if you have near duplicates. You should ask yourself if your near duplicates are generating traffic. And if they are, it's probably because you have backlinks on them, or it's perhaps because there is not a high competition on these pages. So perhaps they are the best candidates in the world, so they are ranking. So you should ask yourselves why are these near duplicates generating traffic to take particular actions on them. Because when you are dealing with duplicates, a usual way to avoid them is to set up rules like having canonicals, and you should be aware of what you are doing here, because sometimes SEOs are thinking once they've set up canonicals, they are done with the job, but that's not true at all. You need to have a semantic approach, and as we are grouping pages with similar content, and as we will tell you, if there's a canonical set on these pages, you need to understand that having a semantic approach on setting up the canonicals is very important, because as a group of pages with near duplicates are talking about the same thing, if the canonicals are pointing to different pages, Google won't like it at all. This is a very, very big problem, because what you see here is that the canonicals of feed page in a group don't if they don't target the same page in their canonical, Google is fetching them as often as if they were pages with no duplications. And I think Google is doing that to keep trying to understand these pages. So you are wasting Google's resources and time, as they will be considered as duplicates. They won't rank. So why wasting Google's resources on them? And in the combined analysis, you also have a view of your orphan pages. An orphan page is a page with no link from your structure, but a page known by Google. So it's often the case when you are an e-commerce vendor. Sometimes you have a product in stock, and sometimes you don't have it. So perhaps you have this rule when your product is out of stock, the link is disappearing from your structure, but Google remembers it, so it will he's still fetching it. So you are wasting resources on pages that won't sell. So you might ask yourself how to deal with that kind of issues, and you know, perhaps you are if you're an e-commerce vendor, in 2016 you had the 2016 collection, and going into 2017 you have a new collection, so you have new URLs, and your older URLs perhaps are not linked from your structure. So and perhaps Google is still remembering them. So you don't want Google to see them, and perhaps they are often pages. And if Google is fetching them, you're still wasting Google's resources. So your job is to lead the Google bots to your main pages. So having the view of your orphan pages will help you save a lot of resources and reorient the bots to your main targets. And we have all the data about the traffic on these orphan pages, so that you can arbitrate some different rules for each of your orphan pages. We also have a combined analysis with your Google Analytics data, so that if you don't have access to your log, you can still have a view on a part of your orphan pages and active pages. So just remember that to build your SEO roadmap, you need accurate data from a crawler, from your logs, and to get combined analysis, so that you can unlock search engines black box, and you can take action based on reliable data and very factual data about Google behavior. So thank you all. Thanks for watching me. I'll be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you very much, Francois, for your informative presentation. And now we are giving turn to amazing Laura Hogan, who is ready to start, I hope. And actually, I'd like to say a couple of words about Laura. So she's a head of search at Rice Media SEO agency, and she has already quite some experience in the industry. And I hope that now she's going to reveal us the secret of getting ahead of your competition. So, Laura, are you ready to start?
Yeah, just getting the screen ready. Give me 2 seconds.
Okay.
Okay.
Guys, I'll remind you that if you want to ask questions, there will be time at the end of our session. So you can tweet us, or you can leave a comments near the translation window. So we will be happy to receive questions from you. And Laura, now the floor is yours.
Perfect. Can you see the full screen just to double check?
Yes.
Excellent.
Great.
So I just wanted to go through today how you can beat your competitors. So in the industry, obviously, we talk about competitor analysis a lot. We talk about things that you can do. But for me, the biggest thing is simply to learn from your competitors and use what you learn from them to apply it to your own strategy, and then you can beat them. As just mentioned, I'm the head of search at Rice Media, search and social digital marketing agency. We're based in Birmingham, and me, I am a dog mom. I've got my 2 little doggies, my Max, who's my Cocker Spaniel, and Milo, who's my Beagle. I like to bake, I like to cook, and I love a cheesy movie, and we'll probably see a few cheesy movies pop up during the presentation as well. So why should you actually care about your competitors? You know, we're also inclusive in what we do and our own strategies. Why should we actually be looking at what other people do? It's simple, really. You'd be so naive to think that your competitors don't have a marketing strategy and that they aren't watching what you're doing. I guarantee your competitors are monitoring what you're doing as much as you should be monitoring them. And also, 9 times out of 10, they also have budget. They're also doing SEO. They're also doing social media. So look at what they're doing and adapt that in your strategy. As the Godfather says, you need to keep your friends close, but make sure you keep your enemies closer. So if we take it back to Google, and just from top line stats, on Google alone, there's 40,000 searches every second, and that equates to 1.17 billion unique users. So there's an awful lot of searches out there. There's an awful lot of competition out there. But that doesn't mean that you can't rank well for your terms, especially when you're up against the really big brands out there like the Amazons and the eBays. For the nichest of searches, there's competition, there's searches, and there's things that you can do. So Beagle dinosaur outfit, for instance, which is a legit search from my history. I'll let you all laugh about that one. So how do you get ahead? There's 5 things that I'm going to touch on that I think are really important for getting ahead of your competitors. And I'm going to look at ways in which you can do it, some examples of what we've done for our clients, and some case studies of kind of the stats we've seen in doing those as well, just to show that you don't have to be the biggest brand in the world to be able to achieve success from your competitors. So the first thing is alerts. There's 2 different types of alerts that I use personally on a day-to-day basis. There's and Talkwalker alerts, and both are free to use. But what I like to do with them is don't just set up an alert for the brand. So I've got alerts set up for Rice Media, I've got alerts set up for all of our clients, all of their competitors, but also I've got alerts set up for specific products that are really big for the competitors. I've got alerts set up for key personnel with our competitors, and also the services that they do. I get them sent to me once a day with the best results, and it just means that I can really quickly aggregate everything and see what's going on with any of the clients that we've got within the company. There's also BuzzSumo, which we use, and BuzzSumo isn't free, but what I really like about BuzzSumo is that it will tell you if the coverage received a link or not. So a few weeks ago in St. Paul's Square, where we're based, there was a Steven Spielberg film being filmed, and we put a video up, we shared that around, and a lot of places picked up the video that we filmed of the coverage. And so we can see that Screen Week covered it and mentioned our video, but they didn't link back to us. So I know now that I can get in touch with Screen Week and go, okay, hey guys, look, you've spoken about Rice, can you make sure you put a link in? And the same, you can do that with any mention of your competitors and kind of see where they're picking up the mentions through BuzzSumo. So when you've got all these alerts coming through, there's 5 core things that you want to look at that you can then take for your own client. So 1, what is the coverage about? Where was it featured? When was it posted? Why was it featured? So to put that into a real life situation, we work with Vax on their social media, and one of Vax's biggest competitors is Dyson. So I not only monitor Dyson, I monitor Sir James Dyson, because he is the face, and 9 times out of 10, any press around Dyson is because of him. So as an example, I had this one come through. So what is it? It's a comment that Sir James had done. Where was it? It was picked up by the Telegraph, by the BBC. It was in May this year, and it was to do with the EU. Why was it there? Okay, it was opinion. It was a political event. And how did they get it? Oh, they held a press conference. So what I can do now is I can go back to Vax and I can say to them, okay, look, anytime there's anything to do with Brexit, the EU, I know that Dyson are probably going to get some coverage from it. They're probably going to get some social media coverage, possibly going to get some links for their SEO as well. And the reason is that Sir James Dyson holds a press event, and they talk about how that's going to impact Dyson as a company. So now I throw it back to the client and go, okay, could you have any input in that topic on any way? Is there anything we can do to make sure that you're also getting the same coverage as they're getting? So it's a really good way of understanding where and why your competitors are featured and how that can create an opportunity for you. So say if, so we work with a jewelry client as well, and 2 years ago, one of their competitors did a big competition where they dropped a diamond in the middle of London somewhere, and you had to try and find it. So since then, they got loads and loads of press coverage for this. So the key thing for us was, okay, what can Diamond Heaven do that these guys have did? And what kind of big competition can we do for them? Because we know that these publications will pick it up, and there's a link opportunity there in publications X, Y, and Z. They're the kind of questions that we're asking and trying to work a big campaign for them. Rankings. So rankings are pretty much at the core of everything that we do with SEO. You know, we want to make sure that we're getting those high rankings for our clients. We want to get those trophy terms on page one, and more importantly, the converting terms. But you should also be monitoring the rankings of your competitors and not just yourself. So what I do and what I say to the team is pick a few terms for each of your clients, and maybe 5 terms for each client. Monitor who ranks on page one for every single one of those terms. And the thing is, if you look at that every single day, you don't necessarily need to make a note of it, but if you'll start to mentally see and notice the changes, and then you'll be able to pick up why the changes are taking place. So when we worked with ATS, I was looking at tyres every single day because I knew that that was their trophy term. And I could tell you any change Halfords had made to their meta description or meta title that might have impacted the rankings. I knew exactly what date anybody had made a change. But the thing is, then we could learn from that. We could then go, okay, this has worked for Halfords, we should do this. So in analysing why, you can then make the changes yourself to hopefully see the same improvements for your client. Another way, it's quite a cool way that I like to do, that you can do it, is when you're searching within Google and you do a site search, go to search tools and look at changes in the past week or month, depending on how quickly your industry changes, and you'll be able to see what pages Google's recently indexed, and that will also give you an idea if anybody's updated their optimization recently. It's a really quick way to do it without having to use any tools to kind of go through what's going on. But then if you're seeing some big change and you've seen someone's made a big difference to their meta title or description, you'll be able to then pinpoint back the exact time that they changed it and when Google picked it up. So for example, it happened with Stephen Stone, who are a competitor of Diamond Heaven, our jewelry client. So Stephen Stone have ranked #1 for engagement rings, maybe for the past 2 years. They've had a couple of drop-offs, which correlated with some algorithm updates where they kind of disappeared and then they bounced back up. Was monitor whether their titles and descriptions changed. And just before they dropped recently, they put GIA into the title, which is one of kind of the certifications for the diamonds. Since then, they've taken it off, and they've put it back on, they've taken it off again. But it was interesting for me to see that they put that in, and then a few days later, they kind of lost ranking, and now they've removed it and they've regained the ranking. So it's all these little changes. So now I know for our client that's in the jewelry sector, the most important thing is to make sure that it's just the engagement rings, diamond rings, wedding rings within the optimization, and to not worry about the certifications. Then we kind of look, so you've looked at the titles, you've looked at the descriptions, you're looking in the rankings daily and you're seeing movement. The next thing to do when you see, if you see any big movement for a particular brand, is look at the site itself. We can use Screaming Frog to look from a technical point of view. We can use the likes of WooRank to get a really quick overview of what's going on. But I think as well, it's always just good to use human eye and to have a look at the actual landing page itself and whether the content on that page has changed recently. So for Stephen Stone, their engagement rings page didn't used to be a hub page, and now it is. So they've got a nice big banner at the top with some text on. Then they've got some call to actions throughout now and links to all the category pages, but in a really nice scroller format. So it's where they aggregate all their engagement rings related content and engagement rings related pages, rather than a category listing page as such where you've got every single product. So we saw Stephen Stone did that. So we did it for Diamond Heaven. And the beauty of it is, Diamond Heaven now rank on page 1 for engagement rings. So looking at what everybody else is doing, it can help you, but we do need to remember that it's not always a complete science. Tiffany, for example, they're the bane of my life. They have ranked on page 1 for engagement rings and engagement rings related terms for the last 4 years, regardless of the fact that many times they haven't had a meta description. Meta description has been far too short, it's been far too long, they haven't had titles on many occasions, yet they still rank highly. So I know there's always caveats to things, but in most cases, if you look at what the competition is doing and you find that they're doing well, and then you apply that to your own client, you should see some kind of improvements. Yes, we do need to bear in mind technical, we do need to bear in mind backlinks and other elements. But as a rule of thumb, say you have a clean site, say you've done your disavowals, then you should see some changes based on other performing people. There you go. Social. So there's so many ways in which you can use social to kind of get an idea of what the competition are doing and to use that for your own social profiles. Follow them. It's really, the first tip is really simple. Just make sure you're following the competition and looking at what they're doing regularly. Now, I'm not saying Royce Media is going to go around and follow every SEO agency in the country, but I personally follow a few agencies that I want to keep an eye on. I personally follow a lot of my clients' competitors to see what they're doing. Also, though, you can use TweetDeck if you don't want to be straight up following everybody. Use TweetDeck, it's free. Get the columns for TweetDeck, and you can do columns based on users as well as mentions and trends and hashtags. So I've got a TweetDeck board set up for all of Vax's competitors that I'm looking at all the time to see who are they messaging, what's going on, what they're doing. It's like Dyson retweeted Neil Patrick Harris the other day because he shared an image with their Vax on. So straight away, I was straight over to Vax and saying, look, Dyson have done this. This message itself has got like 63k retweets. We need to make sure that if anybody of profile is messaging you, you need to be getting straight in touch with them. You need to be retweeting what they're sending through to you as well. And then that will help your organic reach for your Twitter profile. So there's some of the hashtags as well. So from an SEO perspective, I've always got these ones up as well, so that for any clients that are looking, we're trying to do any outreach for, we can see straight away any kind of requests, any bloggers, journalists, PRs are looking for that we can then kind of give products for. So there's loads of ways that you can use TweetDeck. I think it's one of the best free tools out there that you can use to help kind of get an idea of what's going on. Sprout Social is a really good tool as well, which we use for our clients. And the Twitter listening report is really useful to get an idea of market growth for specific keywords. So I've got all of Vax's competitors in there, and every month it will tell me whether someone has grown. So for example, Bissell, people tweeting about the word Bissell. So a 12% increase in growth in October. And then when I looked a little bit deeper into that, they'd done a competition. So we can see that straight away, if you do a competition on Twitter, you'll see a growth. So I went to Vax and said, okay, this is what Bissell have done. They've done a competition. I think we should look at doing something on Twitter for you guys. What should we do? Here's what I think we should do. And we've put a plan together now to get a competition out in the next few weeks. So with competitions and with monitoring posts, it's brilliant to kind of see what everybody else is doing. But don't copy them. So we'd put this really cool competition live for Diamond Heaven last Valentine's Day, actually this one was, and we teamed up with another client, and there was a stunning, really beautiful diamond necklace and some Vera Wang flowers. And then the next day when I looked on my Facebook after we'd posted this up, I got this lovely Burns Jewelers sponsored post coming out with pretty much the same competition. And you just have to think, is imitation the sincerest form of flattery, or is it a little bit cheeky? So just watch out you don't completely mirror what people do. So look outside, look at what people are doing, but don't just completely copy it. There's also the fact that don't just look at your direct competitors with social. Social's about audience. It's about getting in contact with the people who want to be buying and who want to be sharing your products and your services. But I think with the rise of Unilad and Pretty52 and sites like this, we should be looking at what they're doing, and we should be looking at what people who are also targeting our same audience are doing. So Pretty52, for example, I think they target a very similar audience to Diamond Heaven, and we saw that memes worked really well for them. So we tried it for Diamond Heaven. So we did this one on the end of October. No paid budget behind it. It was just a pure post on there. It had 90 plus shares, 250 plus likes, and 144 comments. So there was, as I said, no advertising budget behind it. This was posted on a Sunday afternoon. And because we'd seen that this kind of post did well for that audience, we've tried it. And now it's something that's firmly within the strategy for DH because it worked so well for them. So monitor the accounts and tailor to make it work for you. That's my best advice for social. Content's such a cool one to monitor what your competitors are doing and then use it for yourself. And it's so easy to do. So first thing you want to ask yourself, where is the content featured for your competition? Where are they getting their posts out there, whether it's infographics, guest blogs, any competitions they're doing online? Where is it? So the easiest way to do it with an infographic is do a reverse image search. So again, coming back to Vax as a client, I saw that Bissell had done a graphic about how clean your house was. So I just did a really simple reverse image search within Google, and it came up and it showed me that Yours magazine, which is a target magazine for Vax because it's the right age group, it's the right audience, and also a blog called Cushy Number had featured it. So there you go. So Cushy Number had done it in May, and then Yours had also covered it in May too. So then I wanted to know, okay, so brilliant, they've covered this. I can see that they then might cover some of our stuff, but why did they feature that graphic? So I looked at the text and I looked at what the graphic was about and how they angled it on Yours magazine. So biggest things that kind of popped out for me was the shock factor, the family angle of it, the kind of cringe factor of it. And so then I was like, okay, so it relates to the audience because it's about family. It resonates with them because it's talking about all these hidden sins and all this dirt within your carpet. And they take action because it shocked them and they're like, okay, oh my God, my carpet might be due a clean. So now I know that that's the kind of content that I need to angle to get it featured. So how can I get it featured? Okay, well, I'm not going to turn around and do a Mean Girls and copy exactly what they've done with their graphic. What I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on the reasons why the content was featured and use the relationship, how it resonates and the action from it to get Vax's content. So I know now that we need some actionable cleaning tips that will protect your family from the germs that lurk in your home. So we've started this month and we've got the 12 cleaning tips of Christmas that are coming out on social as a starting point. And then we're going to graphic that up at the end and make a really nice graphic that the SEO team can then start using to get some links from an outreach. So we've got facts about how 34% of people don't clean their carpets. There's facts about mold spores within your carpet. Like, we're making it shocking and cringy, but packaging it so you don't go, oh my gosh, that's disgusting. It's packaged to the extent of, okay, I really should take action about this. I've got guests coming over at Christmas. I'm going to have kids in the house. I need to make sure that the home's tidy and I need to make sure that it's clean to keep everybody protected. So learn from the success and also the failure of your competitors, because as we all know, we can produce infographics, we can publish them out, but that doesn't mean they're going to get a really good pickup. So also look at what didn't work for your competitors and then apply it to your strategy. Now, the final way is links. Historic links are so great for an overview of what our client's done, but I think new links are the secret to this and are the best way to work out exactly what your competitors are doing at this moment in time. The easiest way to find the new links is with Majestic. So when you're on Majestic, I like to do it for a specific URL as well as domain level. So I've just put in an example from when we did a blog of the Brighton SEO and the speaker slides. So I wanted to see what new links were generated to that page from doing it. And straight away, here's our link. Okay, we're on search engine watch, site viz, media flow, lovely. But then I wanted to look at what other sites had covered Brighton SEO talks and whether they linked back to us in it. So there was an opportunity on traffic.co.uk. They'd covered Brighton SEO, but they hadn't linked back to us when they'd done it. So then I knew that I could get in contact with them and go, okay, look, you've linked to the slide share from Branded 3 in there, but you haven't linked to ours. Here's the link, and you add it in. And since then, they have added it in, which is brilliant. But it's a really quick way to spot opportunities for where your competition have got links that you can then go through, work out exactly how they've got the link, and pick out and contact them to get the link back for yourself. It's also really useful for finding your competitors' blogger list and who they're using to review their products, and also with any kind of blogger outreach schemes they've got going on. So for Vax, I was having a look at what Dyson were doing, and I found that this site had mentioned about the hashtag Dyson challenge in the blog that they covered. So then I just did a really simple Google search finding this site through Majestic. And there was just a list of maybe 20, 30 sites talking about the Dyson challenge. So I've got straight away Dyson's list of bloggers that then I know will talk about vacuums, care about family, care about that kind of lifestyle post. And when I need to for Vax, they're there, and I can contact them all, and odds are they'll probably do coverage for Vax as well as Dyson. So that's made my life 10 times easier when we've got a big campaign for Vax, because I've already got all the contacts there to target. So if you know all the links that your competitors have, you know exactly what they're targeting, you know what terminology they're targeting, you know what services they're promoting, what products they're promoting, and who they're using to do that. And you can take that and use it to your advantage. So our key takeaways from this: monitor your brand and any product mentions of the brand also. Understand the social strategy of all your competitors and what they're posting, when they're posting, who they're interacting with. Be aware of new content that your competitors create and where it's featured. Find out why it's then being featured and use that with your strategy. Monitor new links and highlight the SEO focus and also the blogger list of your competition, and know who's on page 1 all the time, and understand movement for your core and trophy terms. Thank you very much.
Laura, thank you very much for your very practically oriented and clear presentation. I think that our audience is happy to receive such recommendations right now. And now I'm very delighted to introduce you to our next speaker. And this is Charlie Williams from Screaming Frog. And Charlie has actually a huge experience in working with SEO. And now he is going to introduce us about thinking mobile first, which is going to be one of the hugest trend in the recent SEO probably. So Charlie, the floor is yours. You are welcome to start.
Okay, can everyone hear me fine, I take it?
Good.
Okay, fantastic. So thank you very much for that introduction and to invite me to speak today. I hope everyone's been enjoying the day so far. I've caught several of the talks today, in fact about 5 of them, they've all been fantastic. I'm part of the Screaming Frog team based in scenic Henley-on-Thames, and we're famous for our SEO Spider tool, of course, but we are primarily a search agency covering SEO, PPC, and PR. And I'm very excited to be able to share some thoughts on a topic that's a big passion of mine, and that's making your mobile site and SEO your priority rather than afterthought, changing a little bit about how we're looking at SEO. But just before we get going, of course, just a quick reminder, any questions, hashtag Digital Olympus. My Twitter handle is @PageSource. And if you want to get hold of me, just tweet me any questions later on, or if you want a PDF copy of the slides or anything like that. I'm excited to chat about this topic, and that's because mobile SEO is about to become a pretty big part of our lives. Okay. I'm a huge fan of my phone. Not from a being flashy point of view. I've actually got quite a battered iPhone 5 in front of me that really desperately needs updating. But for me now, it's, the interest I have in this is it's an incredibly powerful bit of kit that most of us and increasingly large amounts of the world have in our pocket.
Charlie, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we can't see your slides right now. Yes.
Hang on, have you been able to see them at all?
We saw them, but they disappeared somehow. Maybe you can share the desk again. We can't see you as well, so.
Let me start again. Hang on 1 second.
Yeah, no problem. Guys, and meanwhile, we would like to remind you that you can ask your questions, which will be discussed very soon by our great experts. So if you want to ask something entirely different to our Laura, you're welcome to tweet us or to write us here.
Okay, any better now?
We still can't see you, unfortunately.
What are you seeing at the moment?
Just a picture of you.
Ah, how disappointing.
Yeah, maybe you just...
okay. I'm just starting again.
You just can maybe try to log in and log out. Now I can see myself.
Okay.
Yes, great. We can see your slides now.
Yes, success?
Yes, yes.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Okay, cool. So I was saying, the thing about phones for me is that they're a very intimate device. We have them in our pockets. It's kind of like the computer we interact with the most. It's almost certainly, I'd say, you know, the most personal bit of technology we have. It goes into our bedrooms, into our kitchens, into our workplace. It goes everywhere with us. The sort of rush for new models perhaps isn't what it was a couple of years ago, but you certainly don't get queues like this. People waiting for the new Dell Tower or a Lenovo ThinkPad or something like that. And when you think about it, many people spend a lot more money on a phone than they do on a computer. Our phones have replaced our cameras, our calendars, our iPods. For those of you a certain vintage like me, our Walkmans. They offer the best email experience you have and much more. Now, my wife does everything on a phone. She does complicated, long emails on a phone. She kind of does edits of her website on her phone. She does all these kind of things. I'm always offering my laptop saying, hey, do you want to borrow this? And she's like, no, I've got it on my phone. She's a photographer, and the only time she actually busts out her laptop is to edit photos, doing real power tasks. Despite me having my phone set up for my work life really well, I have apps for email, my social media accounts, scheduling, that kind of thing. I actually live a digital life on a laptop. I spend 8 to 10 hours a day on a MacBook screen, looking at the internet that way, through big monitors, that kind of thing. And that means I'm kind of less in touch with a lot more of the audience on a almost increasingly day-by-day basis. It's not the same as many audiences out there see it. And I think we all know the big stat about how April, I think it was last year, Google announced more searches were being done on phones than being done on desktops in many major markets, including much of Europe, the USA, and so on. But some of these stats from on the screen right now from September this year, and so that's sort of now 39% searching on a smartphone only, which is more on the computer only and stuff like this. So it's becoming, obviously, the cliche, the mobile world we live in. So the perspective for SEOs is a little bit behind, I think, some other industries. This is quite a famous quote in the design sphere from 3 years ago, from 2013. And we've moved beyond designing websites for desktop only. But have we done the same for SEO? I don't think we have quite as much yet. We didn't have to before, but now we're moving potentially to a mobile-first index. That makes it difficult. This makes it a really exciting time to be in SEO, I feel, both for the technical engineering types and the content creators amongst us. We need our content to be ready to go anywhere, because it can be found by people anywhere around the world on any kind of device, but also it can be physically taken anywhere. You know, your content can be absorbed on the bus as people head into town, so they come to your shop instead of someone else's, for example. Appreciating this and building a content or SEO strategy with a true mobile content for users has been a battle, I think, between us and our clients more and more. And a month ago, Google dropped the bomb in terms of mobile first indexing was finally coming, being talked about for over a year, and now they're saying they're doing it. You could hear the predictable panic and overreaction with our industry, as these kind of announcements tend to elicit. It is pretty big news, but while Google described this email as this initial work as, I should say, as experimenting, this is the planned shift to looking primarily at mobile for our content rather than desktop when deciding how to rank results. Why they are doing this, for those of you that maybe aren't aware, is simply that obviously more people search on mobiles and use mobiles. They're seeing them, their services then use desktop. And the common scenario is that people do a search for something, they see a snippet in the search results, go through to the page, and then because that snippet was based on a desktop site, they don't see it when they're on their phone. This isn't a great experience, and we all know that Google is all about rewarding the great search experience, so people keep on using their services and they get to make more money. Now, obviously, this was a bit of a interesting thing for me because I put forward this topic to the Digital Olympus guys a couple of months ago. Before this announcement, I was just talking about the client relationship, and then suddenly this makes me look really clever because, hey, I look awesome because I've done something that's really timely based on a massive bit of news from Google. Wasn't planned, but I'll make it look good for myself. That's fine, I'll take it. So the way I'm thinking about this is we're well beyond, those of you who've been doing SEO for several years will have heard, I think 2011, 12, 13 and 14 were all the year of mobile. We're kind of beyond that now. But we're actually entering a period where SEO work we do starts by looking at the mobile version of the site, because that's what Google is going to start looking at first of all. Suddenly the mobile version of your site, instead of being a nice to have, is the primary thing. So how do we start thinking mobile first? Well, I think we actually can do a lot of stuff that we do now. We just need to edit some of our habits, some of our processes, ever so slightly. As always with SEO, I think the first place we start thinking mobile first is with our data, by knowing what's going on with our site right now, through our analytics. What's happening with mobile right now on your site? How many people are visiting your site by mobile? What kind of experience are they having? Is it good? That kind of area. The home for much of the data we look at, of course, is in Google Analytics itself. And GA is actually device agnostic when you first load up for most reports, which is great. We sort of slice up our traffic by sources and actions rather than by screen size. And that's fine, that's great. I normally want the whole picture, that's really good. But right now, I haven't seen a client come to us, or even with other agency help, where they're actually looking at mobile as a kind of separate view, if you will, or a separate report to actually really understand what's going on. Getting started is actually pretty easy. There's a mobile section within the audience menu on the left-hand side, which brings up your mobile data, and you can pick from all your secondary dimensions from there and start seeing some interesting stuff. More helpful for me is actually using the mobile traffic segment at the top of the screen. This lets you go into any of your reports that you like to look at and see success of normally, and just see it for mobile traffic. Here, I've actually done a bit of comparison stuff where I've compared the mobile traffic and the desktop and tablet traffic and done them side by side to see what the difference is. Here's where I think you start seeing what's going to happen in our industry is that it's going to be really horses for courses. The top graph is for a desktop software site. The primary product is desktop software. So you can see for them, actually, mobile traffic was around 5% because, of course, most searches that are related, for them, for organic traffic are going to be desktop related. They're going to know their desktops when doing it, when it's in mind. The second graph, lower down, which is almost an exact, over the course of traffic, it's about 49-51% split, is a publisher site. So it's 49% mobile. So this is a site where content is the primary product, and they are really, really, reliant on mobile traffic. The publisher has got to be kind of concerned with the mobile experience a lot more because it's a huge part of their audience. Whereas the sort of more B2B desktop site, it's sort of, you honestly think, well, they don't have to worry about mobile. But actually they do, because if we go to a mobile first index and their mobile traffic is particularly low and they haven't got a very good mobile site because they don't think they have to worry about it, if indexing is suddenly based on their mobile site, which isn't as good, then it's good.
If they
Sorry, that's my daughter interrupting me.
solid.
Yes.
But we need to get solid in lots of food.
We do, but Dave's got to finish his talk first, okay?
We got the food.
Sorry, everyone. Right, so back to the actual interesting talk here. So I think what's really cool that we can do here is we can actually look at our content performance for mobile as well. So just by having our mobile segment up and then looking at our landing pages for organic traffic, we can start seeing what's working for mobile. So for example, here are some of our landing pages, great for desktop, but actually when it comes to mobile, they're getting very little traction. Do people bounce off them? Is that time on page no good? What's the user journey? That kind of thing. So I read in the first way to start thinking mobile first is start using analytics more sensibly. I've even for a couple of clients set up separate reports and views which are just mobile traffic. So another thing that's quite cool is search analytics within Search Console. So what you can do with this is if you go into the bit, you can actually, you've got this devices section. So even though we can filter by queries and pages, we can filter by devices as well. And there's a cool thing which lets you filter and then compare devices. And you can see here that I've for a site I've got here, I've had a blank of data obviously, you've got desktop clicks versus mobile clicks. Now this again is our desktop software site and they've got huge amounts of desktop clicks and very little mobile. Another important aspect for many of us is using visibility tools. So the things like search metrics, Systrix, SEMrush, stuff like that. This is really cool. But when it comes to mobile, there's a few differences between them. Lots of tools give us mobile visibility, but we have to adjust how we look at them. Are there differences in performance for important resources? Are there keyword topics where mobile users don't see us? That's the kind of information we want to get out. So we use Systrix at Screaming Frog, and that does a nice job. It lets me see all the keywords that sound like from mobile searches and indexed sort of visibility charts. It can then build a report for smartphone as well as desktop and overall, should I wish, and even let sort of compare the two. So I can build immediate picture of what's working on desktop and what's working on mobile. SEMrush, which is lower down on the right-hand side here, is one of my favorite SEO tools. Full stop. I use it for competitor and keyword intelligence all the time. But when it comes to this, if you're one of the guys, if you're listening in the US, good news, they've actually got separate mobile reports for the US, but it's been out for a while, but it hasn't made it as far as I can see to other markets yet, but I'm hoping it'll come soon. Next up, there's something that jumps to many people's minds, especially now about the mobile first index, is thinking technically about their website and how mobile first is going to affect that. Now, I think the first thing to make clear, of course, with this big news that came out last month is that the change that we're seeing is about indexing, not ranking. And there's been a few articles that really get that a little bit confused. So it's about Google will consider the content's format and suitability for the device you're searching on. Still, the mobile friendliness, absolutely. But when it comes to actually ranking content for either a mobile or a desktop search, your mobile site is what's going to be used unless you haven't got one, and then it's going to be the desktop, sorry, I should say site. There's a couple of articles here. There's one from the SEM Post, Jennifer State, which was on the day after the announcement was made, which had lots of Q's and A's with the guys from Google, like John Mew and so on, and Gary Eels on Twitter, which is really useful. And an article from a couple of weeks ago on Search Engine Journal by Ryan Jones, which is really good at explaining the technical differences and what's going on. When Google started talking about mobile indexing just over a year ago, they originally talked about having a separate mobile index, but then they've kind of changed their minds. It's still going to be a single index. But instead of their desktop site being the primary version, the next thing I think is really important to consider from a technical point of view is understanding how you are technically delivering your mobile site. You're either going to have a responsive design, dynamic serving of content, or separate URL, a separate mobile website. Understanding how those three different things work and what you can do to solve them and make them better and make them, sort of optimal for this new change for a mobile first index is really important. So if we have if things like vary HTTP headers, rel equals alternate tags, and blocking resources sounds a bit scary, don't be scared. I managed to get my head around it pretty quickly. I'm sure everyone else can as well. But now's the time to start learning. Now's when it's going to start becoming really important. So if we have a mobile site, we need to make sure that it provides the same content experience as our desktop one, as close as we possibly can get it. Now, sites that are responsive will usually be absolutely fine. That's an important thing to say. Responsive sites will normally be treated exactly the same because they've got exactly the same content. But sites that are a different experience on mobile, such as dynamic serving sites and ones on separate mobile domains, we'll need to look at exactly what they're offering and make sure they understand. A core part of the change between mobile sites and desktop sites is the number of internal links. And this is something that by doing a few comparisons with our clients, we've seen just by crawling them both and looking at the number of internal links on the desktop site, the number of internal links on the mobile site, it's a huge difference in number. And internal links, we know, are actually a small but cumulatively quite important signal to Google, both a bit of ranking and for helping them discover the most important content. So one of the first things I think you'll see is you can have a lot less internal links on when you start doing mobile first indexing. You have a lot of sites with a massive, huge navigation section, and yet when it comes to the mobile version, there's a small hamburger logo in the corner, and then it's a really quick experience. There's only maybe sort of 10 links compared to 80 or 90 in some cases with our clients. And so those pages that are lost all their internal links, you're going to have to look at your internal linking structure and make sure you are getting crawlers to the right points. If, when it comes to, sort of using like less internal links, it can be a good thing because actually sometimes you're diluting and you're sort of sending too many links from important pages to many places. But actually, I think a lot of people are going to find that important bits of content might suffer because they've no longer got the linking they once had. You've got a publishing site, well, yep, you can still play with AMP. AMP versions can still be used if you want to take advantage of that resource, as they are seen as different to main site versions. I know there's a lot of divided opinion on AMP as a tactic, but if you're going for it now, it shows you're probably thinking more mobile first, so it's not necessarily a bad position to be in. Unfortunately, it also means you can't use AMP to get around a mobile domain or anything like that because it actually, if you've already got a mobile website that's not very good, plus AMP, Google's still going to be using the mobile site instead of the AMP one and so on. And if you only have a desktop site, it's like, oh, I'll keep on using my desktop site to be ranked. If you've got AMP, then AMP will actually overrule that desktop site. Again, check those articles I shared before, which go into a bit more detail explaining some of this. Just like Mobilegeddon, if you don't have a mobile version, don't completely panic. I think that's an important thing to say, guys. You've got a bit of time to get it built. Don't panic too much. So how do you start building a picture of all the potential issues? Well, I think there's a really cool thing that you can do with fetch and render on Search Console. This works really nicely. People have been using it, I've seen it mentioned lots of times, obviously desktop, but now instead of using the desktop Googlebot for fetching and rendering your pages and Google making sure Google can see exactly what you want, now it's going to be more important to start seeing the mobile version. And with all these tools within Search Console, such as crawl errors and things like that, at the moment, it defaults to desktop, but I'm wondering if Google will switch it to defaulting to mobile when the mobile index first actually launches. So a little bit more on scale. If you've got a big site, you want to do something more at scale than individual checks on Search Console. So I'm happy to show a bit of a preview of the next release of the SEO Spider, which is kind of useful for this in a nice fortuitous circumstance for me. Using this, you can check all the pages on your site for mobile rendering, plus a bit of scraping to check all your product content is showing to the mobile version of Googlebot, which is really cool. So this is going to be the new version of Screen Frog Spider coming out hopefully in a week or two's time. Within it, you go to configuration and then you go to rendering, which is available now. You bring up, you do JavaScript rendering within this and then pick Googlebot mobile smartphone. So you can see here on the right hand side, I've got a little preview screen, which is kind of mobile size, which is what we want to be doing. And then if we do our HTTP header user agent option and say, I want to crawl my target website as Googlebot for smartphones, make sure it's for smartphones post April 18th, 2016. That's when the change was made. This will mean we're now going to crawl our site as Googlebot and do a JavaScript rendering of all our pages as a smartphone size screen. So we're going to see what our Google sees for a smartphone. And this is what it looks like. So the box in the kind of middle with a red arrow pointing to it is the key thing here. This is a little rendering screen, which shows, just like the fetch as Google, it allows us to see for every single page on our site, the rendered page, and we can see if there's any blocked resources and things like that. We can also do all our usual checks and screaming fog to make sure that what Googlebot sees is everything we expect them to see. Now, more advanced users of the spider will know that you can do custom snippets and search for custom things. You can search for custom bits of stuff, codes, such as a common example is looking for Google Analytics tracking code being on all your pages. But you can also use it for scraping. If you find the XPath bit for your product description, for example, you could put that in as your custom snippet, crawl your website. Say you've got a big commerce website which does lots of different things to content on a mobile version. I want to see what Google sees, both for the rendering and just have be able to put out a list of all the product descriptions we're actually serving. I can do this now and actually see what a mobile first index will make our website look like to Google. It's a good way of getting around this. I'm pretty excited about this coming out in the next couple of weeks. Of course, you want to be mobile friendly, so there's tools for doing that as well. It's a small ranking signal. It's that's still a thing. I'm sure the signal will become more important in the future, as well as the important one from Google. Varvy.com has a mobile check, which actually comes up with some nice information as well, and it's got a lot of good learning resources. So I recommend checking that out. And of course, there's mobile errors as well. This is a report again within Search Console. So if you don't want to go around checking through the site's actually mobile friendly or not, Google will tell you which pages aren't mobile friendly. Speed with the flip-flop of which version of your site is going to be used to rank. A lot of folks are going to have to look at page speed. A lot of people have done it for desktop like crazy because, hey, we want our desktop to be really fast because it's good for users and good for Google. Well, now, same thing. Make sure your mobile version is really good and really fast. I think many surveys we've all seen on page speed have shown that, the longer it takes a page to load, the more money you lose, the more people drop off and so on. So yeah, really do be thinking about speed, but again, twist it now so you're more concerned about speed on your mobile version than your desktop version. A big part of thinking mobile first, of course, is looking at who you're optimizing the site for. And as an industry, I think we've started actually, knowing that we need to be using personas, and it's all a little bit fluffy, but it's a definitive breakdown of our audience, kind of archetypes of who our site is designed towards. But I'm afraid now I'm saying many of us have finally managed to get to this point, we probably need to look at them again, which might make some of you groan. As well as looking at our audience by the products or service they're after, we want to consider the device they typically use to complete this task. So there's two ways of looking at this. You can take your existing personas and assign common device types to those tasks. You can get some clues to this from Google Analytics and so on. Or you can start building new personas. I know, that's more work. But you can start building new ones and factor in your devices from there. So B2B sites, such as our desktop software provider from earlier, will often have the majority of personas using computers. Your keyword research will then really benefit from understanding this kind of thing. We also want to consider the location and context of the search within that persona as well. So where will this person be doing? Will be searching in the office, at home, that kind of thing. There's a lot to be said about personas, but there was actually a superb talk this morning at Digital Olympus on this very topic by Gianluca Fiorelli. I apologize, Gianluca, for probably completely mangling your surname. You'll find there's a video that's soon, obviously, on Digital Olympus. But grab the slides now. I really recommend it. It was a really great talk. If you haven't done any personas yet, there's a bunch of resources out there for doing really quick, dirty ones. We don't need full-on PR style ones because we're not doing the same level of work as PRs when it comes to it. We know we're sort of leaving them for a specific purpose. But there's some resources on the screen here. PersonaApp.io, Up Close and Persona. The YouGov website is really good for this. And there's some good articles as well to help you. So get started with those. Perhaps even more useful for SEO than personas, which you can often steal and base on from other marketing departments, are user stories. User stories for SEO. In fact, having personas is almost more a detailed way of getting these user stories. We want to know how people are searching within our niche, what they want to do once they arrive on a site, and what their content experience should be. And we want to add to this now what their mobile experience of this could possibly be. User stories sound like horrible, fluffy things that can bring an SEO out in hives, I know, but actually they should be kept very simple, precisely because we want just to get to the point in SEO. Very matter of fact. We want to use these for keyword research and content planning, and they're really, really useful. I can't recommend them enough. So you can use GA, user research, existing personas more to help build these out. And the classic user story from UX and content strategy disciplines has an actor, has a narrative and a goal. So it has I want to, so that, and I can achieve something. So I suggest that we add my third one here, context. So as a X, I want to Y using Z so that I can A. So what am I? Who am I? I want to do something. I'm going to do it in this context using this device in this location so that I can achieve something else. That is the user stories, and these are really good. So you've got user stories in place. The next likely kind of thing we want to be doing is actually going, what's the content we're going to produce? What are we actually going to do mobile friendly? How is mobile friendly the latest evolution of publishing, if you will? And I think this is actually really key for me. If you can't tell already, this is actually something that really is exciting stuff, I think, because it feels like a lot of articles on this topic are about, the downward, sort of, we're going to have less desktop searches because we're mobile first and all this kind of thing. I think this actually just means we've got more and more searches. We're not going to have the same size pie cut smaller. We're going to actually have a much bigger pie as people are doing searches in new and different ways. So after, we've got everything in place, we've got our user stories and so on, the next likely thing you'll be looking at is keyword research. Find those topics you'll be building content around. And if you haven't looked at your keyword research for your site or one of your clients the last couple of years, now's the time to revise it because things are really changing. What does someone looking for your product or service ask differently on phone and desktop? You can see from some of Google's latest data, this is again from September this year, there's a clear difference when people look for a similar theme on different devices. We're looking at similar stuff, but what we're looking for, the context of it, is quite different. So we can be thinking about our content experience in different ways. We want to be aware of new streams of keywords that we might be suitable for, queries that would have had little volume only several years ago. So here we can see for a search term such as pizza restaurant, from our previous example, that has heavily localized terms here in the UK, commonly associated with local intent. But it's also clear there's mobile terms such as near me. In fact, there's been arguments made that Google has created a near me industry as it comes up and auto suggests so much when you're searching on phone. But there are new types of keywords that when you've got a term that can be on mobile and intent and local intent really has new variants, new options for us to target. And I think the next thing to worry about, of course, once we've got our targets in place is to go, right, what content formats really work? Does your content actually help a user achieve that goal we set out in our user story? Here, all of that fundamental UX stuff that we're really starting to do in SEO needs to be reconsidered and applied to our mobile site. So font size, use of imagery, videos loading properly, no flash on most mobiles, the use of spacing and so on. Part of the conversation around the mobile first index was actually, we know that on desktop, Google is saying don't use, if you use concertinas and tabs and so on, that content might not count towards ranking, might be in it, might not count. On mobile, they've said where stuff is hidden for UX, that will still count towards ranking. So a really great example for me is that the example of Wikipedia here. The content is all mostly hidden on load apart from the introduction, but it's easy to see, it's quick opening and closing of each section, it's really smooth, all crawled, indexed and considered, fast to load, and overall a fantastic user experience. Amazon is another good example. I know Amazon is good examples for all kinds of things, but they've got a big thing going on. So what they've got is each of their read more bits take you to a new page with full reading, so users get to set the exact bit they're interested in. But the page is huge. For a mobile page, this scrolls on for ages and ages and ages, just like the mobile desktop pages do. So actually, it's not a lightweight version. You've actually got the full desktop content experience, but in a perfectly great mobile first, easy to read format. Fantastic. Finally, from a publisher point of view, we've got the Ringer, which uses Medium as its CMS. It's a super example of heavier content done in a mobile legible format. I think it's important to remember that content not only changes on mobile due to its format, but it changes how we distribute it. Social media is the biggest driver of distribution of mobile, and email delivered right into people's hands, literally in this case, is a hugely powerful and personal way to get content to your audience. So, the mobile experience is much more intimate. So when you're distributing content to people, you're going to sort of maybe change your tactic a little bit, or think about as a publisher how you're going to really appeal to people rather than showing the desktop experience, which is going to be somewhat different. I think an important note on mobile, just generally, is that it reminds me on social media is, of course, you thought the distractions were bad, taking away from your content on desktop. On mobile, it's so much worse because the mobile phone is the biggest distraction from your desktop content. And suddenly someone's looking at your content and they've got notifications, they've got all kinds of things going on, they've got probably listening to music or a podcast at the same time. Fact is that, we're going to have to work even harder at making our content pop, making titles work, all that kind of thing on mobile to make sure people don't get bored by whatever's flashing in front of them. Finally, how do we address mobile user needs? So we know all the content formats. What kind of content should we be building? Now, without wanting to just rely on Google stuff, and because frankly, they only give you so much stuff I know. But I think the thing with Google section is a really good starting point. If you're thinking about this, if you're a creative person, want some ideas, the thing with Google section, which has got collections on micro moments, which is there still about mobile, also a section on mobile itself, and there's a lot of crossover between those two. If you go to these sections, then there's lots and lots of stuff to do. The famous ones, the micro moments, are I want to know moments, I want to go moments, I want to do moments, and I want to buy moments. How do you create content experiences that work for these? Well, the first thing I think you want to do is refer to user stories, then compare it to these. But beyond that, it's I know, sort of looking out and doing some actual research yourself, looking at your audience, going into your analytics data, doing some genuine audience research by asking some questions. There was obviously talking in the personas earlier about asking, doing surveys and so on of your actual audience. That's a great way to actually start working out what the intent your audience has of your content on mobile. You should be looking at that here. But the thing with Google, it's a good place to get a bit of inspiration to get you going. Any content building SEOs out there will see this content and use it to think of ideas for their own site. It really just inspires you, I think. But what better way of doing this than actually knowing what Google's quality raters want? The quality search rate evaluated guidelines were leaked last year, and everyone concentrated on the first section, which was about main quality rating guidelines. There's a whole section on mobile user needs starting on page 56. And you can use this to match up your user stories and make sure you have the types of content they talk about useful. So there's a whole section on there which talks about the different types of mobile content. It gives them names and so on. So if you can build stuff towards that, then it works really well. So I think the final bit is to summarize the concept is this. Google summarized by saying, be there, be useful, be quick. And that's a nice starting point. But I think you can take your mobile site, the hub of how you think about your content, make it your mobile one, and then start building something better. So the key takeaway for this is that we need to radically change what we do. Not really. We only need to change things a little bit, but just start looking at the mobile first. The same best practices still apply, but we just need to do with the mobile site as our primary asset. That's what we care about now. And that's it from me. Thank you very much for your time, and I apologize for the interruptions from my daughter.
Thank you all guys for your presentations, and now we have a short Q&A session. So first of all, I'd like to ask if you have any questions to each other regarding your own presentations.
In the left side.
Francois, Laura, are you with us?
Yeah.
I love the new features for Script Frog, so I can't wait to see those in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it looks really good.
Oh, we can't really hear you.
So the idea.
Okay, then let me ask you a question. And the question is, what do you think are the major trends in the SEO in the upcoming 2017?
For me, a really big one is just making sure that you update your disavow files and actually look at backlinks and look at the value in that now that Penguin's granular. I think that's going to be really big to continue in 2017.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, on my side, we saw a big trend coming, which is about the integration of some kind of knowledge graph-based algorithms, which will target, which will aim at providing more accurate results for named entities such as individuals, organizations, geolocations, brands, products. And I see that the co-occurrency of relationships between entities, I mean, like Leo DiCaprio and Titanic, for instance, which is a movie. You might use both named entities. I mean, Leo DiCaprio and Titanic, if you want to rank on both queries. So regarding the keywords landscape, I think people should focus on a better presentation of their named entities. I mean, their products, their brands, and how they organize the relationships between Apple and iPhones, Apple and iPads, and people should pay attention about how they are linking their content with these relationships between entities in mind.
Thank you, Francois. And Charlie, would you like to add something?
I'm afraid I actually missed the question.
Okay, so the question was, what is the major trend in the SEO in the upcoming 2017, in your opinion?
Oh, wow, that's a big question.
Yes, yeah, but...
So obviously there's a couple of things that immediately stand out for me. One is the growth in the kind of combination of content marketing and SEO, which sounds like a thing that's always true. But in terms of the personalized experiences, personalized search is becoming bigger. There's more and more personal devices and surplus searches being done on devices like the Amazon Echo and things like that. And I think the actual way to stand out is to actually entice people in, make them understand what you're about, getting their mindset by doing proper content marketing that also acts as evergreen content that can appeal to different search queries as well. So you've got two chances of ranking for things. And the other thing I think technically is we're going to see a lot more JavaScript-based websites. We're going to see a lot more headless browsing. We're going to see a lot more kind of new formats and more technical side of things actually become important, because along with mobile first indexing, there's lots of technical improvements Google's making at the moment. And I think some of them are going to become quite important, and it's going to require a bit of learning for quite a few SEOs.
Thank you for your opinions, and maybe you still have some questions to each other, because it would be great to have some discussion among you in case you have some ideas to discuss between yourselves.
So, guys, thank you very much for joining us, and think we have.
Okay, then my very last question will be is to give a very short and, as Charlie, actually you did at the end of your presentation, like 2 sentences recommendation to our audience. What do they necessarily supposed to do in 2017 to be on top?
Oh wow! So I think part of it's related to what Laura was talking about in terms of just having excellent monitoring set up. So be really on top of your analytics, be really aware of what the competition's doing, just be aware of the market a lot more. You have to start acting a bit more like, if you're not in-house, if you're agency, you have to act a bit more like you are in-house. I think that's very important. And then the other thing that you really want to be doing to keep on top of things is just start becoming better aware of your audience. The more you can actually get into your audience mindset, the better your keyword research is going to be, the better your content you're going to produce, and just overall the better website you're going to build, which will just help with most rankings.
Thank you, Charlie. Laura, what is your idea?
And for me, as everybody's been saying, technical, and making sure that everything's in line with your technical. You know, you haven't got the errors on the site you're using, the Streamfrog, you're using Encore, you're using those tools to just make sure that your site's healthy. And then once you've got the healthy foundation, you can then start looking at your content, looking at the external link building and getting it into your healthy foundations.
Thank you, Laura. And Francois, what would you add?
Well, I totally agree with my peers on both sides, but my bet is that you need to plug more and more data into your analytic systems. I mean, you should pay attention to grab some your gross margin data, your stock, your fidelization data within your analytics, so that you can take better decisions when you are arbitrating your strategy on a particular group of pages or a particular topic. So I think you should add some more knowledge into your analytics.
Thank you very much for your advice, and thank you guys for staying with us, for sharing your knowledge and experience. It was really, really great, and we do appreciate you being with Digital Olympus. Thank you, and goodbye.
Thanks.